Hey there. Welcome to the 90-Day Volunteer Recruiting Challenge. This is Kenny Conley. I'm your host, as I am in the middle of this challenge trying to recruit 50 volunteers. Yesterday, we talked about the volunteer pipeline. This is a document I like to use. It's evolving, and it's going to eventually become an automated process through our database. But I want to show you the spreadsheet that I use, the document that I use to track. I've used this for years. I've used this at multiple churches where we've recruited literally hundreds and hundreds of volunteers, many people working through it. But it might be a good overview to show you this is what needs to be tracked in order to get somebody from prospect to permanent volunteer. So check out my pipeline.
Okay, for some of you visual learners, here is an actual example of my volunteer recruiting pipeline. And this is a document I've been using for close to a decade. I've used this with just myself as I've been recruiting. And I've also used this with my staff, where I've had up to 15 staff members in and out of this document every day. It's meant to be collaborative. Now, again, if your database can do this through workflows or process queues, you probably want to use that. But if you don't know how to do that, or you don't have a system where you can do that, then a Google spreadsheet or any kind of spreadsheet will work just fine. So let me take you on a tour of my spreadsheet here. So I typically, in this first column, I like to put the source of where these people came from. Obviously, I don't have everyone filled in. I'm a little sloppy here, but and because it's mostly me working in this, I know who all these people are. I've got first name, last name, email address. I oftentimes will put it in here just so I don't have to look them up in our database. It's just all right here. Scroll over. Here is the ages. I have it set up as automated, where I've got high school, middle school, junior volunteer, or adult. So I get an idea as I'm talking to them where I want to place them based on their age. Staff assignment, primarily it's just me and my coordinator, and so the two of us are working on these. This is really helpful when you have a lot of people working on this, because you can sort it, and that way you can keep track of who are your people. I also have this section called role. This is just something I have, where I kind of identify where the person is in the prospect. And the idea that I have is a prospect is somebody who they don't know that they're on my list. There's somebody that I am working up the ask to invite them to serve, and so I have them labeled as prospect. Anytime somebody has filled out an application, or they've come to a volunteer orientation, or they signed up for a volunteer orientation, I move them to recruit. That means they're in it. Like, I'm trying to get them now, and they know it too. And then the last step is onboard training. And so these are people who have actually finished the volunteer orientation, and now they're in the process of getting fully onboarded. So that way I can sort between all these, and I can split up how I'm communicating to each of my contacts here. So if this helps you, then it's all there. Now, this is something I currently have turned off. I'm going to turn it off here in a second. This is just like a call log and a communication log. This is mostly helpful when a lot of people are working on this, and anytime I make a phone call, send a text, or send an email, I click one of these boxes. So that way I can keep track of how many times they've been contacted. See, it shows how many contacts, and then usually I'll put in the date of the last time I contacted them. Now, I'm going to actually hide these because I haven't been using these. Let me hide these columns. Okay, perfect. Now, here's something I don't have on this pipeline, but I would encourage, especially if you got multiple people here, put in the date of when you added them to your pipeline, so you can keep track of how long they've been in your process. And then here are basically all of my checkpoints. I've got have they registered for the orientation? If they've registered, boom, I click it. You see all these people down here have registered. When they register, I put the date of the orientation that they chose, and then they either attended it. So when August 25th comes, I click on it that they attended. Or if they didn't come, then I click on missed. And you can see I got some down here that missed. Now, I don't know why there's not a date here. It should be here, but this is just a way that everybody on the team can know exactly where everybody is in the process. Look, see, I've got upcoming orientations here you can see. So this is great. Then also, here is the nitty-gritty of volunteer onboarding. Now you have to determine what steps that you're going to include in your process, but these are mine, okay? I've got the intake form and the volunteer application. Now, minors don't need to fill out a background check. So I have an intake form specifically for minors, teenagers. So they will just get, like this one here, this is probably a teenager. Let's see, yes, Layla here is a teenager. And so I don't have this one checked, background check. But intake form, application. And then I have, at the bottom of my application, I have agreements. And it's important that they agree to all of them. So just, even though they fill out the application, I do a checkbox to make sure they agree to all the agreements. Then I have my volunteer interview. Now, as you can see, I'm behind. I need to schedule time for my interviews. And we'll talk later about what the interview consists of, so stay tuned for that. Test drive week 1, test drive week 2. These are just 2 weeks of observations that I scheduled them in. You can see that most of my people have already observed, and then reference 1 and 2. So I'm a little bit behind on that as well. More information coming on reaching out to references. I've got training. Have they received and agreed to the handbook? Have they received their t-shirt? Have they received their lanyard? And then have they been assigned? And then I click on all clear when everything is checked off. They go all clear, and then I can move them off of my pipeline to somewhere else. But then we also have over here, let's see, I can't quite see it, but I have declined. You can't quite see it on the screen here, but it's declined. And if for some reason they have decided not to serve, or they have ghosted me and they're not following up, I can check this box here and also remove them to another tab in my volunteer pipeline, just so I can keep track of who said no. And so later, if they show up again, I know who this is. So this is it. This is real simple. I'm gonna have a copy of this, a template of this in the hub. You can get to that at ministryboost.org/90, and you can save this to your own account, modify it, and hopefully this will help you get more organized to make sure that nobody ever falls through the crack. And so just the one last thing I'm gonna say here, every name on here is somebody who I had an idea about them. So just for instance, these ones that are yellow, these are people who I've added and they're still not, this is just for my mind. These are people that I'm working on them. I don't know if they're going to say yes or not. The green ones are some people that they're existing volunteers, but there's some things missing that they weren't onboarded correctly, so I just added them back to the pipeline. Again, if I don't want to forget and I want to make sure that happens, put them on my pipeline and I'll work on them. All the people in white are people who, for the most part, they're people who came to my volunteer orientation. So I know like they're in a different place in my process. And so I'm visual, I like the colors. So there you go. There is my volunteer pipeline.
Okay, awesome. I'm so glad you had a chance to look at that. What questions do you have? What's missing? What's missing from your process? How might a pipeline like this help make sure that not another possible volunteer falls through the cracks?